Thunder euphoria reigns. An ESPN analyst's playoff odds projects them into the playoffs, and certain members of the local media seem ready to book postseason travel. You're watching the press row. I'm Mike Sherman. They're Oklahoman columnists Barry Tramel and Jenni Carlson, and we're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder's trajectory. Guys, have we seen enough of this team to plot any coordinates? Jenni, you first.
Well, I think they're definitely projecting on a higher plane than we saw last year. I don't know if I'm ready to call them a playoff team just yet, but I'll tell you what, the thing that is most positive in my mind is the fact that this early part of their schedule, we knew from the time the schedule came out, it was going to be the most difficult part of their schedule. And right now, they're sitting pretty good. I think the fact that they're coming through this and not really fumbling around and they still have a winning record, I think that projects well. Again, I'm not ready to quite go to playoff level just yet, Barry.
Well, it's a tough situation. I mean, the Thunder right now is in number 8 in the West. Number 9 is San Antonio. No one really expects the Spurs to stay out of the playoff. It's going to be a tough battle, but the truth of the matter is, absolutely this team is better than virtually everyone thought. Most of us had the Thunder somewhere in the 30s, high 30s, low 30s. Now, everybody, I think, would say they're going to be in the 40s. The question is, you're going to be at 41 and probably out of the playoffs, or 48 and in the playoffs. So we'll see. Some of it's health and injuries. Some of it is just how the young players still develop. You know, Jeff Green, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, still young. They can still develop. But what it is, it's going to be a fun ride watching this when we certainly didn't see this coming this quickly.
Talking about these projections, John Hollinger of ESPN, he has playoff odds that he updates every day. It just so happened yesterday when ESPN was looking for something to put on its homepage, out there danced, and there was the Thunder with 48 wins and a number 5 seed in the playoffs. Gulp. Here's a question to you. What's the one thing that is going to happen, Barry, for them to achieve that kind of status?
Well, the number one thing I would say is, Russell Westbrook's going to have to continue to develop. I mean, in my mind, he has not played well this year. His numbers are very good. His numbers are better than what they were last year, and better than maybe what I even projected. But he's really been up and down. He's going to have to play consistent for this team to get to the 45, 46, 47, 48 wins. Russell being sort of sporadic and hit and miss, they can get to 40 wins. But they're going to need him every night to get to 45, 48. I
think you mentioned health before. I think that goes without saying. You can't have guys getting hurt, and I think the way we've seen this point guard position go with some backups getting hurt, I mean, little things like that, and it's not so little to the guys that are hurt, obviously, but, you know, having to piecemeal backups together and maybe play guys a little longer, stuff like that adds up late in the season. So you have to stay healthy. But I also think, the guard play, even though Russell, I agree, has to continue to develop, guard play has been the strength of this team. Interior and what those guys do, Nenad Krishtik, Nick Carlson, Etan Thomas, how they play, what they give this team, that could really be the difference in the end between, say, stealing some games that they maybe shouldn't win and maybe getting to that mark where they could seriously be a playoff team. 48 wins seems so high. 43 seems high. 41 seems high. Anything in the 40s to me seems high. I think you've got to get some pretty good production out of your bigs to really make that kind of push.
A little perspective on that, how high those 40 wins seem. 1 year ago today, the Oklahoman, that's us, carried a story headline, "Get Used to the Cellar." At that point, the Thunder was 2-19. Darnell Mayberry wrote a story that no NBA team that had ever started that bad had won as much as 15 games. So the Thunder made history there. Okay? They made history. They won 23 games last season. Actually, it seems like a little bit more just because of how they played in the second half. But this defining stretch that is coming up, 8 games. Here's what they face. 3 back-to-backs against playoff teams. That's 3 sets of back-to-backs against playoff teams. By the way, you might have heard of some of the guys that are getting ready to play. LeBron James, Kobe, Steve Nash, Carmelo Anthony. Is this the defining stretch for the season, Barry?
No, because I think they're going to take their lumps on this. I think they're going to get battered around. They're not going to be one of the 8 in the top 8 at the end of this 2-week stretch. You didn't even mention Dirk Nowitzki. He's in the. Dirk Nowitzki's an unbelievable ball player, and he didn't even make that top 4. I think the defining stretch comes in after the first of the year when the Thunder starts playing a series of opponents that they should and can beat. Those are the games you're going to have to win. They're going to come out of this thing pretty bloodied, I think. Maybe even be a little bit under 500. January and February is when they can make it up.
Yeah, but they do have some games in this stretch, even though it is brutal with the teams that are in there. They've got some games they can win. I believe Detroit is one of those teams. That's a home game coming up. I mean, the games that you can win during this brutal stretch, you got to win. You can't sort of be stumbling around and then lose an opportunity to beat a team that you maybe could otherwise beat if you weren't sort of in the middle of all this mess. So they have to maintain some perspective, come out of this, even though their win-loss record is probably going to take a hit. They have to keep their psyche together. They have to, not feel like, oh my gosh, all is lost, because there's still so much of this season left. So beat the teams you're supposed to beat in this stretch, and then really come out of it and think, all right, let's get going again. And I think they'll be fine if they can have that sort of mentality.
Thanks, guys. That's all for this edition of the Press Row, but stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at News OK, and every morning in the Oklahoman.